Who will win the West?
Shannon Sharpe, enjoy. From the start of the season, I had a gut feeling, and that was that I believed that there was one team that could beat Golden State in the West. Only one team, and that was Golden State. I thought by adding Kevin Durant, it would cost them 1 year, one cycle, one playoff cycle of trying to figure out the big game playoff chemistry needed to win big, late, close games. And again, I got a little shaky this year, especially down the stretch. Did they finish strong or what? Because they won 15 of their last 16, no cruise control for that team. And it seemed that Kevin, after his knee injury, blended right back in just nicely and finely. And so I'm a little shaky on this, but I'm going to stick with my gut feeling. Golden State will fall in any of the first 3 rounds of the playoffs. Before the year, I picked the Los Angeles Clippers to win the West, and I did it for 2 reasons. Number one, as you know, I'm a lifelong or longtime Spurs fan, and the last 2 years I picked the Spurs, and I picked them so strongly on television, I felt like I jinxed them, like I just kept beating the drum, and I finally said, I'm backing off this year. I'm not going to pick them before the season starts, in part because I'm not even sure what they're going to be without the great Tim Duncan. Could Pau Gasol and David Lee replace Tim Duncan? And guess what? They shocked me how good they were. They were much better than I thought they could be. And I do love their chances until this last, I told you, the last couple of weeks. Coach Popovich did it again. He took his foot off the gas way too early, and they lost 4 of their last 5 games. So I don't love the way they closed. But they did finish number 1 in defense and number 1 in three-point shooting, and that can win you the Western Conference. But I see 3 potential pitfalls for Golden State. And you can laugh at me, but Portland could be a pitfall if Jusuf Nurkic can play. And who's this guy? Well, he's 7 feet tall, and he's 22 years of age, and Portland stole him from Denver at the trade deadline and made their season. They were dead in the water. They were going to miss the playoffs, and this kid changed their life. Because he is a double-double. He's 15 and 10 every night, and he is not afraid of anybody. He's got great feet, great hands, and great touch.
And the thing is, Skip, the team that traded him to Portland, they knocked out of the playoffs in the 8th.
Missed the playoffs. So then, unfortunately, a couple of weeks back, Nurkic fractured his fibula. I got to believe it's a hairline because they say there's a good chance he's going to play. But will he be 100%? If he's 100% for Game 1 on Sunday, this series is going to go a ways. It might take 6. It might even take 7 games. I'll stick with Golden State, but again, Portland will take pound of flesh. Clippers, round 2, if it comes to that. They started off hot. They crushed your Cavs at Cleveland early, and 6 days later, they got left for dead at home by the Golden State Warriors. And then all of a sudden, Blake Griffin's gone for 21 games, and Chris Paul's gone for 21 games, and only recently have they come back together and closed hot, under the radar hot. I still say that team has huge firepower. They're all in the last year of their contract. It could be the last hurrah. Doc is on the hot seat. I still say that team, against a team with Kevin Durant, will cause some problems for Golden State. I could see that going 7 games. Okay. And if it does and Golden State survives that, it brings me back to my Spurs. Obviously, on March 11th, we know what happened at San Antonio. They, without Kevin Durant, Golden State, left my Spurs for dead because my Spurs got up, 29-7? Yep. And from that point forward, they lost that game in San Antonio 103-69. But there was no Kevin Durant. So, as I told you the next day, I got one hope here. Hurry back, Kevin. I need you because I don't know if he can blend back into the chemistry. And I don't want to detail this, but I told you all year they suffered 9 big, bad, inexplicably bad losses with Kevin Durant in the lineup. Why is that? They weren't sure, is it your team, Steph, or is it your team, Kevin? And I think in big, late, close playoff games, they will struggle to find their pecking order. Whose turn is it to close this game? So I'm going to say if my Spurs can grind through games in the grindhouse against Memphis, I think it's going to go 7 games because the Spurs lost their way at the end of the year. But if they can recover and figure out how to get back on a roll again against Memphis, They can beat Houston because it's a bad matchup for Houston. They just pick Houston's defense to pieces. And that would bring us back to Spurs versus Golden State in the finals. And I'm going to say somehow Golden State beats Golden State because that's the only hope that I have. They can't figure out how to close against a team, the Spurs, who for most of the year had the best road record in the NBA until the very end when they collapsed. But I think they are capable, as were the Cavs last year, of winning a game at Golden State. So I'm going to close my eyes and say Golden State beats itself and Spurs make it to the finals.
Skip, it's hard to pick against Golden State because they have the luxury that very few teams in NBA history has ever possessed. They have 4 All-NBA players in their starting lineup. They have 4 All-Stars in their starting lineup. The likelihood of all 4 of those guys being cold on a given night is really next to nil. And what happens is that last year, if Clay and Steph struggled, they struggled. But now you add a 30-point scorer in Kevin Durant, a former MVP, first-team All-NBA player in Kevin Durant. That's a dimension that they didn't have last year. Harrison Barnes was a nice, solid role player. He was a good piece. He played good defense. You know he's going to get you 14 to 15 a night. But he wasn't taking a game over, especially in the playoff. If Clay and Steph struggle, you still have Draymond and you still have KD that can bring the load home. If Steph struggle, you have Clay and KD. So this is where that makes it so difficult for a team to beat San Antonio because I don't believe you can beat them by outscoring them. Now, Houston,
beat Golden State. Yes.
Golden State. Mm-hmm. Now, Houston, Daryl Morey, he believes, his analytics tell him we can beat them by shooting the 3. That's why they put up about 40, 41 a game. Hopefully, and they say, well, if we can shoot 35%, we love our chances. Skip, I don't believe you can beat Golden State by outscoring them. The Cleveland Cavaliers beat them in a 7-game series because they held them to 15 points lower than what they normally score. You have to grind them out. The Grizzlies can do that, but the Grizzlies are not going to get an opportunity because they face the Spurs, who's a nemesis of them.
It has been. And plus, they're without Tony Allen, who's been a nemesis of the Spurs, and it looks like he's going to be gone for the whole first round. Yes. So unless Memphis survives without him, I'm with you. It's a little advantage Spurs.
Now, the Clippers, you like the Clippers over Utah. I think that series is going to probably go 7 games.
It could. I mean, Utah's really good on defense.
They are.
They're number 1 in points allowed on defense.
Because they have Gobert, they have Favors, Hood, and Hood can get hot from 3. They got some guys that can score some points. You don't sleep on Utah because, Utah, man, they don't do anything up there in Utah. They can score. Gordon Hayward is a better player than people give him credit for. I think he's probably the best American-born white player. Who you take him? Is he Kevin Love, the Plumlee brothers? I take Hayward.
I'm thinking I'd have to make sure I don't miss anybody, but he's up there. Yeah, he's in the top 2 or 3.
Exactly.
Sure. Yeah.
So with that being,
on a given night, Kevin Love, when he comes to play, right. that's pretty big stuff. Man.
But the thing is, with Gordon Hayward, he can play on both ends of the court, and that's what I think gives him the advantage, is because he can play defense and he can also go get you 25 to 30 points on a given night. So I'm going to say, you know what? I don't think Portland doesn't play defense, Skip. You can't beat this team thinking you're going to score 130. Because if you think you can score 130, that means they're going to score 145 on you. And this is the problem that Portland has with them. Now, Dame Lillard and C.J. McCollum, they're going to cause you some problems, but they can't stop anybody. They don't really have any good matchups for them other than on the offensive end.
But a really skilled big man has given Golden State issues on both ends of the floor. And Zaza seems a little hobbled right now. He's had knick-knack injuries. So, again, if Nurkic isn't hobbled, they're going to have a hard time with him. Again, that Portland would have to slow it down, and then Portland's got to win the 3-point contest.
Yes,